My girlfriend Olivia said Rowan will always be part of my life. He is family. If you cannot accept that, Jack, then maybe you should not marry me, she said in front of both our families at dinner, while her ex-boyfriend sat at the head of the table smirking. So I said okay, stood up, and walked away from a $90,000 wedding. What happened next destroyed everything they thought they knew about modern relationships. My name is Jack. I am 34, and up until that dinner I thought I was getting married in 2 months. I am a structural engineer here in Portland, the kind of guy who measures twice and cuts once. You know, I have got this little craftsman house in Selwood that I have been fixing up for years, and my rescue dog Scout, who is basically my best friend. Pretty boring life, but it was mine. My girlfriend Olivia, 32, works as a development manager for some local arts nonprofit. She is one of those people who just lights up a room when she walks in, articulate as anything, always talking about being emotionally evolved and how most people are stuck in outdated relationship models. Her family's got money, big progressive types from Lake Oswego who use therapy speak like, it is a second language. Here is where it gets complicated. Olivia has this ex-boyfriend named Rowan who she calls her best friend. This guy runs some podcast called Open Bonds about modern love and emotional fluidity or whatever. The thing that always bothered me was how he had a key to her parents' house and showed up to literally every family event. Every single one, birthday parties, holidays, casual Sunday dinners. When I asked Olivia about it early in our relationship, she said their connection transcended traditional boundaries, and that jealousy was just fear dressed up as love. I tried to be cool about it, I really did. But something always felt off. So Sunday night, we are having dinner at her parents' house. This sprawling place in Lake Oswego with more square footage than most people see in a lifetime. All reclaimed wood and floor-to-ceiling windows that probably cost more than my entire house. It is supposed to be a nice family dinner, my parents and hers, talking about engagement party plans and wedding details. Normal stuff. My mom brought homemade rolls. My dad's wearing his good shirt. Everyone's being extra polite. Then Rowan walks in. He doesn't knock, doesn't ring the doorbell, just uses his key and strolls into the dining room like he owns the place. We are all already halfway through the main course, and this guy just pulls out the chair at the head of the table and sits down. Not even an apology for being late. Olivia doesn't even blink, just lights up with this huge smile and says perfect timing like this was all choreographed. My parents exchanged this look. They are polite people, raised not to make scenes, but I can see my mom's jaw tighten and my dad's fork pause halfway to his mouth. They are trying to figure out what the hell is happening and why nobody else seems surprised. The conversation moves to engagement party planning, and my mom, bless her heart, asks this completely innocent question. Olivia, will Rowan be attending your engagement party too? The entire room goes dead silent. Olivia sets down her fork, looks directly at me, and says in front of both our families, Rowan will always be part of my life. He is family. If you cannot accept that, Jack, then maybe you shouldn't marry me. Her parents are nodding like she just said something profound. My parents look like someone slapped them. And Rowan, this guy is sitting there with this little smirk like he is watching his favorite show. Everyone's waiting for me to respond. To defend myself, argue, apologize, something. I can feel all these eyes on me, waiting for me to either back down or blow up. I stare at Olivia for what feels like forever. Then I say, very quietly, okay, that is it, just okay. I fold my napkin, stand up, and tell my parents, let's go. You should have seen Olivia's face. That little smirk, she had completely disappeared because she realized okay wasn't me giving in, it was me walking away. The next morning, I email our wedding planner Grace and cancel everything. All of it. The venue, the catering, the flowers, the band, everything. Since Olivia's family handled all the deposits as their wedding gift to us. Something like $90,000, I don't owe a penny. I also close out our joint wedding registry account that we had been building up for months. Turns out when both names are on the account, either person can make changes. I send one text to Olivia's mother. Thank you for dinner. I agree with Olivia. Some things aren't negotiable. That evening, Olivia lets herself into my house with her key. I hear the front door open and I am sitting in my living room with Scout, just scratching behind his ears and thinking about how quiet it has been all day. How peaceful. Honestly. No tension. No walking on eggshells. No wondering what mood everyone's going to be in. She finds me there, but what she also finds are all her belongings, boxed up, labeled, stacked neatly by the front door. I had spent the whole afternoon going through everything methodically, the way I approach work projects. Her clothes, her books, her fancy skincare products, that collection of crystals she swore helped with energy alignment. Everything sorted and packed with the same precision I use for structural calculations. "What is this?" she asks, and I can hear her voice starting to shake, like she genuinely cannot believe I followed through. "You will need to pick these up tonight," I tell her, still sitting on my couch, still petting Scout. "I will give you proper notice about the locks. You have got until this weekend to get anything I missed." Now she is getting loud, voice climbing an octave. "You cannot just throw me out of our home." I look at her and say, "It is my home, Olivia. You were just staying here." That is when it really hits her. She starts crying, saying I am being dramatic, that this is all some big misunderstanding, that the ultimatum wasn't real, just her way of testing whether I could handle the complexities of evolved relationships. She keeps using words like growth and emotional maturity while mascara runs down her cheeks. "Man, don't blow this up. She is testing your comfort with modern relationships." And that is when my best friend, Noah, who has been watching this whole disaster unfold, sends me a photo. It is from earlier that day. Rowan touring an apartment in the Pearl District with some woman from a leasing company. The application Noah managed to see listed two names, Rowan Pierce and Olivia Hart, CO tenants. So while I am sitting here thinking this was some impulsive ultimatum, they already had an apartment lined up. This wasn't a test of my comfort with modern relationships. This was always the plan. I sent one final message that night, to grace the wedding planner, cancel everything. Permanently. Update 1, so the morning after I posted, Olivia's dad Thomas calls me, not to apologize or ask if we can work things out. No. He is threatening to sue me for breach of promise, and demanding I reimburse them for the wedding deposits they lost when I canceled everything. I am standing in my kitchen listening to this guy who has probably paid more in therapy bills than I make in a year, and he is literally screaming about how I have financially damaged their family and that they have witnesses to my erratic behavior. Lucky for me, my neighbor Sharon is a civil attorney. When I tell her what happened, she just starts laughing, Jack. She says, "Olivia made that ultimatum in front of multiple witnesses. She basically dared you not to marry her. You are legally bulletproof. Thomas can threaten all he wants. They are out $90,000 and there is nothing they can do about it." But here is where it gets really twisted. Remember how Olivia and I had set up this wedding registry fund? We had been collecting money from friends and family for months, building up this account for our honeymoon and new home expenses. Olivia managed it since she was better with the financial planning stuff. Well, after Thomas threatened me, I decided to take a closer look at that account, and guess what I found? A $12,000 transfer to something called Open Bonds Media LLC. That is Rowan's company. When I confronted Olivia about it, she claimed it was for a creative collaboration, and that they were launching this co-living project about emotional evolution. She said it was going to be a documentary or something about modern relationship structures. That is when it hit me. She wasn't planning to live with Rowan after we got married as some kind of test or emotional experiment. She was planning to live with him, period. The marriage was just... I don't even know what the marriage was supposed to be for her. A cover story. A way to keep her parents happy while she did whatever she wanted. Yesterday, Olivia showed up at my house again. This time she is crying before she even gets through the door. Mascara already smeared, hands shaking as she tries to explain herself. She is saying it was all just a test, that she wanted to see if I could handle the reality of modern relationships, that she thought I would eventually understand what she was trying to build with Rowan. I told her, "You don't test loyalty by demanding betrayal." She kept saying she thought I would come around, that most people just need time to evolve past traditional thinking, that I was more enlightened than other men she had dated, and she believed I could grow into this new paradigm. The way she said it, like she was doing me a favor by pushing my boundaries. "I do understand now," I said. "You never wanted a husband. You wanted an audience." The look on her face when I said that, like I would finally seen through the performance to what was really happening. She tried to argue, saying I was being reductive, that their connection was about emotional authenticity and breaking down patriarchal relationship structures. But here is the kicker. This morning, Grace the wedding planner accidentally forwards me an email. It is from Olivia's mother to her, dated 3 weeks before that dinner. Email sent at 7:42 p.m. with the subject line Rowan ceremony remarks setup. The message says, "Please coordinate a microphone for Rowan's short speech during the ceremony. We would like it to symbolize Olivia's lifelong connections." They had the entire thing scripted. Rowan was going to give a speech at our wedding about how he had always be part of Olivia's life. This wasn't some impulsive ultimatum at dinner. This was months in the planning. I keep thinking about how they all sat there that night, watching me, waiting to see if I had just accept being part of their little emotional experiment. How many other people knew? How long were they planning to string me along? The most messed up part is that I actually feel relieved. Like I dodged something way worse than just a bad marriage. Scout's been extra clingy lately, like he knows something was wrong too. Dogs always know. Update 2. So first off, word travels fast in Portland's social circles, especially when there is a $90,000 wedding disaster involved. Olivia's parents have been telling anyone who will listen that I was emotionally unstable and afraid of intimacy. They are painting this picture of me as some controlling guy who couldn't handle Olivia's enlightened approach to relationships. But here is the thing about small cities. News travels both ways. People started asking questions about why the registry money went to Rowan's company and what exactly this co-living project was supposed to be. Turns out, when you are managing other people's charitable donations at a nonprofit and you are transferring money to your boyfriend's business, people get curious. Olivia got suspended from her job pending an investigation for financial misconduct. They are not saying she stole anything, but they want to make sure she kept her personal creative projects separate from the organization's money. Meanwhile, Rowan decided to fight back by releasing this podcast episode called Men with Fragile Boundaries. Spent 45 minutes talking about how traditional masculinity cannot handle evolved relationship structures, how some men need to own women instead of loving them. Never mentioned my name, but everyone knew who he was talking about. That backfired spectacularly. 3 days later, someone posted a Reddit thread with court documents from Seattle showing that Rowan had a restraining order filed against him 2 years ago. Some woman accused him of psychological coercion under the guise of open relationships. Apparently, he had convinced her and her boyfriend to let him move in with them, then systematically destroyed their relationship from the inside. The sponsors dropped him overnight. Several episodes got flagged for violating community guidelines about harassment. Though his main podcast feed is still up. Turns out when you have got a documented history of manipulating couples, most advertisers don't want their brands associated with that kind of content. Thomas and Marilyn Hart had their own problems. The stress of losing all that wedding money on top of their other expenses caused them to have this huge public argument at some charity gala. People started talking about their failed real estate investment and how they had been living beyond their means for years. They ended up selling the Lake Oswego house to cover their debts and moved into a condo. So much for their progressive values when the bills came due. But the real bombshell came last week. I found an anonymous email in my inbox with just a subject line: "You deserve to know the truth. No return address." Obviously a burner account. Attached was this document called Co-Family Charter. I am not even kidding. It is like a business plan for emotional manipulation, outlined this whole shared emotional ecosystem between me, Olivia, and Rowan. Talked about rotational intimacy boundaries, shared holidays, and these charts for distributing emotional labor. The worst part, it listed 4 other couples who had been recruited into similar social experiments. I looked them up on social media, found what I could. 2 are already divorced. 1 couple moved to different states. The 4th couple, I found the guy's LinkedIn and sent him a careful message. He called me within an hour. Turns out they went through almost the exact same thing. Different ex-boyfriend, same basic setup. Meet the family, integrate the ex into their relationship, propose this enlightened approach to love and commitment, then slowly take over their lives. This guy said it took him 2 years to get his self-respect back. Yesterday, Olivia asked to meet me for closure. We met at this little coffee shop on Division Street. She looked tired, older somehow. The charismatic energy that used to fill up every room was just gone, she said, very quietly. "I thought you would come back. You always forgive people." I finished my coffee, looked at her one last time, and said, "I did come back, just to say goodbye properly." I stood up and walked away. She didn't call after me. I think she finally understood that okay really did mean okay. Final update based on the messages I have been getting. A lot of you wanted to know how this all turned out in the end. I debated whether to post this final update, but since so many of you have been checking in over the months, I figured I owed you the rest of the story. Plus, I think there is something important here about what happens after you walk away from toxicity. 10 months later, my life looks completely different. I sold the Selwood house and moved into this downtown loft near the river. Something about starting fresh in a space that didn't have any memories attached to it felt right. The place has these huge industrial windows that flood everything with natural light, exposed brick walls, and this view of the Willamette that changes throughout the day. Scout loves the new place. Bigger windows for his favorite pastime of people watching, better light for his afternoon naps, and there is a dog park right downstairs where he has become something of a local celebrity. The moving process itself was therapeutic. Going through every possession, deciding what deserved space in my new life and what didn't. I kept my tools, my books, my furniture that actually meant something to me. I donated a surprising amount of stuff that I realized I had only kept because Olivia thought it looked sophisticated, or because her parents had commented on it approvingly. Work has been incredible. I am leading this major historic restoration project downtown, converting this 1920s bank building into mixed-use space, while preserving all the original architectural details. Last month, I won this industry award for innovative structural design, something about honoring historical integrity while creating modern functionality. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sometimes you have to go back to the foundation to build something that lasts. Funny how much clearer your thinking gets when you are not constantly questioning your own reality. My work has always been about structural integrity, understanding load-bearing elements versus decorative features. But I would completely lost that clarity in my personal life. Now I can see the difference between what actually supports a structure and what just looks pretty on the surface. I have been in therapy too, working through why I ignored so many red flags for so long. My therapist, this no-nonsense woman named Dr. Chen, helped me understand that when someone tells you your instincts are wrong often enough, you start to believe them. That when someone frames every boundary you try to set as fear-based or emotionally immature, you begin to question your own reality. It is like psychological erosion, wearing away your foundation bit by bit until you are not sure what is solid ground anymore. We have spent months unpacking how Olivia's family weaponized therapy language, how they used terms like growth and evolution to make me feel small for wanting basic respect in my relationship, how they turned my discomfort with Rowan's constant presence into evidence of my own limitations, rather than a reasonable response to boundary violations. Dr. Chen helped me realize that healthy relationships don't require you to constantly justify your comfort level, that emotional evolution shouldn't mean accepting treatment that makes you feel worse about yourself. Real growth happens when both people feel more secure and valued, not when one person has to disappear to make room for the other's authenticity. I am learning to trust myself again, to understand that boundaries aren't walls you build to keep people out. They are just the ground you stand on, the foundation that lets you know where you end and other people begin. When someone asks you to give up that foundation in the name of love or growth or enlightenment, they are not asking you to evolve. They are asking you to disappear. My parents have been incredible through all this. Mom still brings over her homemade rolls every Sunday, but now we eat them in my loft while Scout begs for scraps, and we talk about normal things. Dad helped me pick out furniture for the new place, and I caught him looking proud when I showed him the award certificate. They never once said I told you so, even though they clearly saw problems I was blind to. Noah's been a rock too. He is the one who convinced me to start dating again, though I am taking it slow. There is this woman, Sarah, who works at the coffee shop near my building. We have been talking for a few weeks now, just casual conversations about books and hiking trails, and her rescue cat, who apparently has strong opinions about everyone who enters her apartment. She doesn't know my story yet, and there is something refreshing about being just Jack to her, not Jack who survived the emotional manipulation experiment. As for Olivia and her crew, the investigation cleared her of criminal fraud, but she got fired anyway. The nonprofit didn't want the liability of keeping someone around who blurred personal and professional boundaries. Word got around in Portland's nonprofit community, and apparently she has had trouble finding another position in her field. Her parents are living in that condo now, and from what I hear through mutual acquaintances, they are not handling the lifestyle downgrade very well. Thomas had to get a part-time consulting job to make ends meet, Turns out therapy speak doesn't pay the bills when your investments go bad. Rowan left Portland entirely, tried to rebrand in Arizona under some new podcast name called Authentic Connections, but it failed within months. Once word gets out about your methods, it is hard to find new victims. I heard from someone who knew someone that he is working at a wellness center now, leading communication workshops for couples. The thought of that guy giving relationship advice to vulnerable people makes my skin crawl. But I have learned I cannot save everyone from their own bad decisions. But here is the moment that really brought everything full circle. Last weekend I attended this charity art auction downtown with Sarah. Actually, we had been talking about supporting local artists, and she mentioned wanting to check it out. It felt good to be there with someone who wanted to be there, not someone who was calculating how the event would look on their social media or what connections they could make. And across the room, I see Olivia working as a volunteer server, pouring champagne for guests in this black uniform with the event organizer's logo. She looked older, more tired than I remembered. The charismatic energy that used to fill up every room was just gone. She was just another person doing a job trying to get by. Our eyes met for just a second. For that moment, her whole composed facade just cracked, and I saw pure regret flash across her face. Not regret about losing the money or the job or the social status. Regret about losing something real. Something she had thrown away for an experiment that was never going to work. I just nodded politely and turned back to my conversation with Sarah, who was asking me about the structural engineering challenges in the building we were standing in. No words needed between Olivia and me, no satisfaction required, no dramatic confrontation or final speech. Just acknowledgement that we both knew how this story ended. Later, as Sarah and I walked back to my loft, she asked if I knew the server who had been staring at us. I told her it was someone from my past, and she just nodded and started telling me about this amazing sculpture she would bid on. No interrogation, no demand for details, no attempt to analyze the emotional dynamics. Just acceptance and moving forward. Such a simple thing, but it reminded me what normal actually looks like. I keep thinking about that dinner 10 months ago, how everyone was waiting for me to fight or beg or compromise my way back into their good graces. How they expected me to defend my right to basic respect in my own relationship. But sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is just okay. Sometimes walking away is the only response that preserves your dignity and your sanity. Some ultimatums don't destroy relationships. They reveal them. They show you who someone really is when they think they have all the power.